Hello and welcome. In this text, you will hear the exciting and powerful story of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt and one of the most famous women in history. We will explore her life, her choices, her love, and why people still remember her 2,000 years later. Read slowly, repeat out loud, and learn English with us, step by step, word by word. Let's begin. They say her eyes could stop a war. Her voice was soft like music, but her mind was sharper than a sword. Her name was Cleopatra, and she was the last queen of ancient Egypt. Her story is full of love, danger, power, and legend. Cleopatra was born more than 2,000 years ago, in the city of Alexandria. Alexandria was a city of wonder. There were wide streets and white buildings, a lighthouse taller than any tower, and a library full of books from all over the world. In this city of knowledge and beauty, Cleopatra was born into the royal family. Her family was Greek, not Egyptian. A long time ago, a man named Alexander the Great had conquered Egypt. One of his generals, Ptolemy, became the ruler. After that, Ptolemy's family ruled Egypt for almost 300 years. They were called the Ptolemies. Cleopatra was one of them, but Cleopatra was different from the others. Most of the Ptolemies didn't speak Egyptian. Cleopatra learned the language. Most of the Ptolemies stayed away from the people. Cleopatra wanted to understand them. She studied history, math, science, and many languages. She read books. She listened. She learned. People said she could speak 9 languages. And she used her words like weapons. When Cleopatra was 18 years old, her father, King Ptolemy XII, died. The law said she must rule with her brother, who was only 10 years old. His name was also Ptolemy, like many others in their family. They were king and queen together, but she was the one who truly wanted to rule. The court was full of people who did not trust her. She was smart and strong. That made her dangerous to them. They wanted the boy to rule. They pushed Cleopatra out of the palace. She had to run for her life. But Cleopatra did not give up. She went into the desert. There, she began to build an army. She knew she would return. But she needed help. And then something happened that changed her life, and the history of the world. A man named Julius Caesar came to Egypt. Caesar was the most powerful man in Rome. He came to Egypt chasing his enemy, a Roman general named Pompey. But Pompey had already been killed, by Cleopatra's brother, trying to win Caesar's favor. Caesar was not pleased. He saw that Egypt was full of fighting, full of secrets. And that's when Cleopatra made her move. She knew it was dangerous to walk into the palace. Her enemies were waiting. So she came up with a plan. She rolled herself inside a carpet. Her servant carried the carpet to Caesar. When Caesar opened it, there she was, beautiful, brave, clever, and bold. Caesar was surprised. He listened to her. He liked her mind, her courage, her words. And maybe he liked more than that. Soon, they were not just allies, they were lovers. With Caesar's help, Cleopatra returned to the throne. Her brother died in the war that followed. Another younger brother became king beside her, but Cleopatra ruled alone in truth. She was now queen of Egypt. She sailed down the Nile on a golden boat, wearing robes of silk and a crown of gold. People saw her as the goddess Isis, the mother of Egypt. They cheered for her. They trusted her. And she worked hard for them. She gave food to the hungry. She brought peace to the land. But her story with Caesar was not over. A year later, she gave birth to a son. She named him Caesar Ion, Little Caesar. She said he was the son of Julius Caesar. Some believed her. Some did not. Later, Cleopatra went to Rome with her baby. This shocked the people there. They had never seen a foreign queen like her. She wore jewels. She walked proudly. She spoke with Caesar, like an equal. Some Romans admired her. Others hated her. They called her a danger to Rome. Then something terrible happened. Caesar was killed by his enemies. In the middle of the Senate, they stabbed him. He died on the floor, under a statue. Cleopatra was now in great danger. She took her son and quickly returned to Egypt. Back home, she ruled as queen once more. But now, she was alone. And the world was changing again. This was only the beginning. After Julius Caesar died, Rome was broken. There was no ruler, only fighting. Many men wanted power. One of them was named Mark Antony. He was a general, brave in battle, famous in the Roman world. He was also Caesar's friend. Antony wanted to control the East. That meant he needed help from Egypt. And Cleopatra had something he needed, money, ships, and power. So he sent for her. But Cleopatra did not come like a servant. She came like a goddess. She sailed up the river to meet Antony on a beautiful ship. The sails were purple. The air was full of sweet perfume. Music played as she sat on a golden throne. People on the shore stopped and stared. They said it was not a queen, but the goddess Isis herself. When Antony saw her, he was amazed. They spent days and nights talking, eating, drinking. Cleopatra made him laugh. She listened to his stories. She shared her plans. She gave him what he asked for, ships, gold, and support. But she got something too. She got a strong ally. And they became more than allies. They became lovers. Soon, Antony returned to Egypt with Cleopatra. They lived in her palace in Alexandria. The rooms were full of candles, flowers, and music. They had feasts, parties, games. They called themselves the inseparable lovers. They dressed as gods. They walked through the city like dreamers. They had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. But not everyone was happy. In Rome, people were angry. They said Antony had forgotten he was Roman. They said Cleopatra had taken his heart and his mind. They called her a witch. They called her dangerous. Another Roman leader, Octavian, watched this with cold eyes. Octavian was Caesar's adopted son. He wanted to rule all of Rome. But Antony stood in his way. And now, Antony was living with a foreign queen. Octavian used this to turn the Roman people against Antony. He told them Cleopatra wanted to steal their land. He told them Antony had given Roman lands to her children. He told them Cleopatra was trying to take Rome itself. War was coming. Antony and Cleopatra knew this. They began to prepare. They trained soldiers. They built ships. They gathered gold and food. They wanted to fight. They believed they could win. The great battle came at a place called Actium. Antony and Cleopatra stood on one side, with ships, horses, and warriors. Octavian stood on the other, with the full power of Rome. The battle was at sea. The wind was strong. The waves were high. Ships crashed together. Arrows flew. Men shouted and died. And then, something strange happened. In the middle of the battle, Cleopatra's ships turned and began to sail away. Antony saw this. He followed her. Some say it was planned. Some say she panicked. Some say Antony lost his mind. Whatever the truth, the battle was lost. Octavian won. The sea burned behind them. Cleopatra and Antony returned to Egypt. But they knew they were in danger. Their power was broken. Their army was weak. Octavian was coming. In Alexandria, they waited. Antony became silent. He was not the same man. He trained soldiers, but his hope was gone. Cleopatra tried to make peace. She sent messages to Octavian. She offered him gold. She even offered to give up her throne. But Octavian wanted everything. One day, Antony heard false news. He was told that Cleopatra was dead. His heart broke. He fell on his sword. But he did not die right away. When Cleopatra heard what had happened, she was shocked. She sent her servants to bring him to her. They carried him, bleeding, to her tomb. She had locked herself inside. She pulled him in through a small window. There, in her arms, he died. She was now truly alone. After Antony died, Cleopatra knew there was no escape. Octavian had won. His army entered Alexandria. His soldiers took the palace. But Cleopatra would not be a trophy. She remembered what happened to other queens. They were taken to Rome in chains. They were shown in parades like animals. They were laughed at. She would never let that happen to her. She sent one last message to Octavian. She asked to meet him. Octavian came to her. He was young, quiet, cold. He told her she would live if she came to Rome. But Cleopatra saw his eyes. She knew he was lying. He wanted to show her in his victory parade. He wanted to make her small. After he left, Cleopatra made a choice. She dressed in her royal robes. She put on her crown. She lay down on her golden bed. She took one last look at the sky through the window. She held a small basket. Inside was a snake, an asp, a royal cobra, sacred in Egypt. She let it bite her. 2 of her servants died with her. When the guards opened the door, they found her calm and still. There were no signs of pain, only peace. Octavian was shocked. He had lost the queen, but he had won Egypt. Cleopatra was the last pharaoh. After her death, Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. The temples grew quiet. The old gods faded. The land changed forever. But Cleopatra's story did not end. Even in death, she became more powerful than ever. Poets wrote about her. Artists painted her. Playwrights put her on stage. Her name became legend. Some called her evil. Others called her brave. Some said she used her beauty to control men. Others said she used her mind. Stories grew like trees. Some true. Some false. Some said she died for love. Others said she died for freedom. People wondered, was there really a snake? Or was it poison? Or was she killed by Octavian? We may never know. But the mystery is part of her magic. In the Middle Ages, they said Cleopatra was too smart for her time. In the Renaissance, they called her a tragic queen. In modern times, she became a symbol of female power. Movies showed her in gold, with dark eyes and red lips. Writers gave her long speeches full of fire. She was history's most famous queen. But behind the legend was a real woman, a ruler, a mother, a fighter. She was not just a beauty. She led armies. She spoke with kings. She faced empires. She lost, but on her own terms. And she still lives, in books, in art, in dreams. Cleopatra died, but people never stopped talking about her. For 2,000 years, her name stayed alive, in poems, books, plays, paintings, and dreams. Her story passed from one generation to the next like a secret flame. Some say she was a hero. Some say she was a villain. Some say she used love as a weapon. Others say she was trapped by the love of powerful men. But no one could ignore her. The Roman writers, who hated her, called her a poison, a snake, a danger to men. They said she made Antony weak. They said she wanted to rule Rome. They made her into a monster. But these writers were her enemies. They feared her power. They feared a woman who would not bow. Other writers saw something else. They saw courage. They saw a queen who fought for her country. They saw a woman who stood up to the greatest empire the world had ever known. They called her proud, clever, bold, and the truth is somewhere in between. She was human. She was smart. She made mistakes. She took great risks. She lived in a time of war and betrayal. She was surrounded by men who lied, killed, and broke promises. But she ruled her land. She held power in her hands. She tried to protect her people. And when the end came, she chose her own death. After her fall, Egypt was never the same. It became Roman. It lost its queen, its soul, its ancient voice. But Cleopatra was never forgotten. In every age, people retold her story in their own way. In the 1600s, Shakespeare wrote a play about her, Antony and Cleopatra. He showed her as passionate, dramatic, beautiful, and doomed. In paintings, artists showed her dying with a snake at her breast, lying on gold, her eyes closed in peace. In films, she became a queen of silver and silk, walking through halls of marble, with men at her feet. She became more than history. She became a symbol. To some, she is a warning. To others, she is hope. In modern times, people ask new questions. What did she really look like? What did her voice sound like? Was she truly beautiful, or was her mind her greatest beauty? Coins from her time show her with a strong nose, sharp eyes, and a serious face. Not a soft beauty, but a real ruler. A woman of power, not decoration. And still, people search for her. For years, archaeologists have looked for Cleopatra's tomb. Some believe it is hidden near an old temple, west of Alexandria. Maybe under the sand. Maybe underwater. Maybe in a secret place only she knew. If the tomb is found, it would be one of the greatest discoveries in history. It might tell us how she lived, how she died, what she wore, what she believed, maybe even her final words. But maybe her real tomb is not made of stone. Maybe her true resting place is in the stories we tell, in the way people still speak her name, in every tale of a woman who rules, who loves, who dares to choose her own ending. She was Cleopatra. She was queen. She was legend. And her story will never die.